Welcome to Show Studio and the first of the menswear season for London Collections Men. We have a fantastic panel here to talk about the Astrid Andersen show. Dean, if I can start with you, would you introduce yourself?
I'm Dean Kissick and I'm Senior Digital Editor for ID.
I'm Soki Mack and I'm a freelance creative director and stylist.
I'm Tremaine, Emory, and I work for Marc Jacobs.
I'm Chris Sutton. I'm a freelance creative director and I also work here at Show Studio as Nick's creative assistant.
And I'm Daryoush Haj-Najafi, in case I didn't say that.
Amazing.
So guys, this is the first show we're doing, so this is gives us a great chance to talk about things we're excited about, and what are we excited about for this season of menswear? Chris?
Oh, I was trying to avoid your glance. I'm most excited actually, mostly to see the sibling show.
Okay.
I know you want a really general answer, but I'm not really that focused on all the trends. I think that comes and goes. I think that I want to see something beautiful from sibling because they always think of something wonderful and put new techniques in, and so far they're consistent and amazing, so I want to see what happens.
And Soki, as a lady, what are you excited about?
Well, I asked Lauren if I could specifically do Astrid's show today and discuss Nazir's show, so they're the two I'm looking forward to seeing.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was super excited about Nazir.
Yeah, waiting for it.
If there's one panel I want to do, it's
Nazir. I know, I fought for it.
Dean?
I requested Astrid and Nazir as well, actually.
Well,
so I think those are exciting. But also they're the first and last, so it sort of makes sense as well for London, just in terms of doing panels.
Why are you so excited about Astrid?
She's really good. I went to college with her. She was a year below me, so I've kind of seen it from her graduate show all the way through. And it's maybe the most exciting thing about London is that whole streetwear thing from like Chris Shannon last season was absolutely amazing. And you've mentioned Nazir and Astrid, and you've also got your Sean Sampsons and many others I'm probably forgetting. Itakawa Films, like a new one that's really, really good. So there's a long tradition, and she's one of the masters of it. So it'd be good to see the show.
And Tremaine?
I mean, no particular show in general, but just kind of continually see menswear develop, because I just feel like in the last few years you've seen it like actually progress. Whereas I feel like, as long as I can remember since I was a kid, it's just kind of the same thing year in, year out, Whereas, women's wear, it's always, there's more happening. So I feel like menswear is finally kind of starting to catch up to that. Astrid is a perfect example, one of the reasons I wanted to be on this panel. So that's what I'm looking for, just to seeing stuff that's like moving things forward, affecting culture,
It reminds me a little bit of maybe around 04, 05, there was a great, I think Raf was sort of having a bit of a peak. Hedi Tremaine was having his moment at Dior. Kim Jones was coming through. That was kind of the last time there was this sort of energy around menswear, I think. And the last year and a half has been a big moment.
Also, I'm excited to see, I think it's Wednesday, Adrian Savage's show. Just,
okay.
Just because I've, one of the people I've known since I've moved to London, so I've seen it before the store opened to now him having a show, so I'm looking forward to that too.
Okay. What do you like about that stuff?
I don't know. I just find it like it's like classic, but it's not like it's not contrived at all. It's like it's just like he feel like he's moving things forward, but he is steeped in like suits and stuff like that. He does all that, but there's just something else to it. Like he has an aspect too of just like example like Astrid, like she kind of draws from like urban, where he kind of draws from that too, but also going back to his roots in Ghana, or he's a basketball player, and even in some of the ready-wear stuff, like he did like the short set of just like cut off sweatshirt, where it's just coming from a real place because he played ball, but still there's some type of style involved. So just seeing that come out in the pieces, so just looking forward to that, seeing that. And I know him; he's a good guy. I really like what he does. Yeah. So.
Okay, cool. And so I was speaking to Astrid last night, and she just trying to get a little bit of a preview from her at dinner last night, and she was saying, because I was talking to her about the fact that there is a lot of street sportswear stuff out there now. There was also the editor of Complex magazine was there, and I kind of think it must be quite hard, because I think for some people they see sportswear and they don't see how it's progressing and they don't see how it can go forward, and they sort of think, a designer gets stuck doing that. And she was saying, well, I'm not going to change what I'm doing. I'm not going to change doing the logos. It's really important to me to be part of something tribal, even if, the logo thing has gone crazy. It's really important for me that people can feel like they belong and they can connect with other people through the logos. But so what are you guys thinking about that?
I think that's probably the most important thing you can do as just a person, but as an artist, is stick to your guns. Because I feel like people get so caught up in like trying to run from trends. Whereas if that's really of you, like that's her thing, And if other people start doing it, then that's on them. If they're doing it because it's a trend or because they think it's cool or whatever it is, trying to make a buck, you can't let that sway you from your mission. So I think that's important. I think that's good.
Because it is a bit. Because it is a bit of a worry. Because obviously most of the British classics are essentially sportswear, but from a different age. So you have your hunting jacket and and a lot of, I remember being very confused when I first started writing about fashion, because sportswear used to refer to something very different in women's wear. And but it's interesting to see whether this is a trend or whether it's a sort of epochal shift in fashion, and whether all these designers can move through. What do you think, Mr. ID?
Astrid's very American, like it's very basketball, it's very hip hop, so it's that sort of sportswear thing. Sean's quite similar. Someone like Chris Shannon is maybe more English, but I guess we're kind of living in like the hip hop age of hip hop's a dominant cultural force, really. Like that's what pop music is. It's not really underground, it's mainstream. If you played like a Drake song or a Kanye song, your parents would probably recognize it, your grandparents would probably recognize it, because it's everywhere. So yeah, I think it makes sense and there's a future, but that's not to say that maybe there's not space to do things other than sportswear in like London menswear. And I remember talking to Tom Reiling, I think, when he did his Fashion East presentation, his first like menswear collection, and he was saying he just really wanted to do something that wasn't all like kind of rude boy and tracksuit inspired and that whole London thing. I think the J.W. Andersen show, that could maybe be the most exciting show this season, and that's not going to be a kind of rude boy thing. I'd be surprised if it was. So that's something like really different, maybe more like future, more new. Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of sportswear type fashion designers working in London, and it's definitely good to see other things, but you can see why it's like that, because that is just the fashion on the streets, and if you live here, that's what you'll see. That's probably like the coolest kids you'll see walking around your area will be wearing that.
Suki?
Well, they won't be wearing it around my area, but
Where's your area?
North London. I think I get what you mean. I style musicians of like that kind of caliber, so most of the emerging artists are looking to wear those sort of clothing, so I kind of see it from both points of view. But I think with those kind of designers, obviously when you look at them coming down the runway together as a piece, it's a lot like for a man, unless you work in fashion, you automatically look at that and think, what is that? But you take them all apart and you can wear them, individually with a pair of jeans, and it's not too much. And I think, I just think now these designers are kind of, I hate saying the word taking over, but music is so popular, and these musicians are just walking like adverts. I was reading on ID an interview that 2 Chainz did, and he he's had a huge paragraph on Kate Erie and how like she was his favourite designer, and I just remember her when she did her graduate collection, and I thought, wow, this girl's amazing, and just now it's just kind of transferring to a whole different world. It's nice.
Yeah.
We've got a very good 2 Chainz fashion video on ID online.
Love 2
if
Chainz.
anyone
Oh,
wants
yeah?
to watch it.
Oh well.
Highly
Plug it.
recommended.
Just had to put that
can
one in there.
I can imagine.
One thing we didn't say about Astrid actually is that it's often like super homoerotic, which is kind of different from
Yeah.
some of the other sportswear designers.
That's
Especially like last season, it was.
But yeah, you're right. But the thing I think that's interesting about that is it harkens back to like, because you said, you know, her stuff's hip hop inspired and urban, but it harkens back to like the 80s in New York and places like that where, example, like I'm reading the autobiography of Mike Tyson's autobiography, right? And he talks about how he liked to wear like short leather shorts and shirts that, you know, he wear like tight kind of mesh shirts and stuff like that. And he was straight, but he liked to show off his body, you know? And it wasn't just him because he was an athlete, but that's how guys dressed back then. You know, some of the toughest guys, or not tough guys, it doesn't matter, none of that matters. But it was kind of, it had a sexuality to it, which progressively changed with in urban, you know, urban areas and stuff, how guys dress, where things got a little more, you know, whether it was like, let's say New York, everyone's wearing 4 extra large Champion hoodies and Carhartt, and this, that, and the third, and it led from that. And then it's coming back to that, so. And I also think her stuff kind of like, it shows what's happening in culture, is like, things are becoming one gender. So even if you look at her, like her spring show with like the lace and all that stuff, which obviously you see lace, you think of a woman, but these are guys, you know, fit guys, and you know, all the models, you know, you're not necessarily thinking, oh, this is gay or straight. You're saying this is just what it is, you know. And it's funny because like a friend's mother brought that up, where she felt that's where things are going, where everything's going to kind of become one gender and stuff like that. And I think that's probably the most interesting that's happening in men's fashion in general.
Well, I think there's also an essential sort of campness to power, and like hip hop has always been about power, and obviously until sort of '84, it was a hangover from disco anyway.
Yeah.
So the clothes, you know, African Bambaataa looked insane.
Yeah.
And then there's just like a campness to that projection of power through dress, and then you ended up with P. Diddy in like the late 90s in the sort of big fur coats, and he kind of revisited that earlier era. So I can think kind of what Astrid's doing isn't bizarre, it's not...
yeah.
Well, it's a different... It's sort of the same thing in a different way. Like with J.W. Anderson, he's doing a bit of gender bending there, and it's interesting, whatever. But with Astrid, it's not so much that. It's almost as if she's making it sexy and masculine, but with the feminine references.
Well, it kind of
reminds me. It's nice to see the sexy edge to it, because I mean, I was at that show last season, and to see those guys come out, I mean, they were super masculine physique. She didn't use tiny models. She was selling some sex, and that's really honest and hard, and that's kind of what her thing is, isn't it? To sell something that looks hard, but at the same time has a sensitive edge to it.
Yeah.
Well, she spoke last night about being very keen on strength. You know, that she really wants this to be about strength, that her clothes are about strength of character and strength of look and strength of style, and I thought that was really interesting.
That's the way I am interested in it, because to be quite honest, I don't know a lot about streetwear, and I don't wear it. It's not really my identity, and the people that I dress and the artists that I work with, I would always go for the tailored dark, you know, the Saint Laurent thing, and even though it's a completely different bag of fish, the thing for me is the authority and the cut, and that the energy that when you put someone in it, their persona becomes empowered and it becomes strong, and it doesn't distract from it. And I think that aspect to this work is sort of my way into it, if that makes sense.
But you know, I think you could say similar between her stuff and like Saint Laurent is there's a mood.
Absolutely.
You know, that's you know, his whole thing, her whole thing. Like there's a specific mood. Yeah. And then, you know, as a good friend of mine says, like it's the mood, and then aesthetically they bring that mood out. So he brings it out in the way he does because he's tuned into a certain type of culture of like, you know, the stuff he's seeing out in LA, whatever now in the Center Third, where she's bringing out what she's seeing.
Actually, I'm not even referencing that grunge thing he's doing. I'm sort of referencing
but just in general, so whatever he's doing, it's based on the mood, and then it comes out in the clothing, you know? Yeah. That's what I get from her too. And that's always the best designers, right?
Yeah.
Like,
if you can wear it and feel a bit of swag, it's good, right?
Well, I think the mood thing that you've spoken about is really interesting, because I think, for me, I find it really difficult, and I know that, but I'm not very materialistic for a person that's into fashion. I'm really into brands. I've always been way more into the brand than I have maybe the actual items. And you know,
a sports team, like almost like you root for your sports team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting because because it's a hell of a lot more commercial to have a great brand than be really good at making anything. You know. What do you guys? What do you end chaps think, Soki?
I don't know. I'm a mixture of both, because obviously when I was growing up, I loved, I used to buy ID and all these magazines, but like you can't afford that at that age. And then obviously once you become a stylist, the perks, are the job, are the clothes. But obviously if I had the choice to be able to buy, I think I'd buy into the brands, because obviously you know how it's made, the story behind it, a lot of other things that come with that. And when I was saying the last time we were speaking about Simone Roche, it kind of adds a little bit more to the brand when you know about the designer and what she's like, and I think you think a little bit more into things. So I think definitely the brand.
Because I think what I like about what I think is really promising about the Astrid Andersens and the Nazirs is that they could be a deodorant. And I really love that. No, but I really love that, because you know what you know what it would look like. You know exactly what the deodorant would look like, and I think that's really powerful. And it's exciting because it's quite commercial, and I think that's quite good. I was talking to another person I was talking to last night, was Charlie Porter, and we were talking about Craig Green, and he's really into Craig Green. Yeah. And I reckon that's who he's most excited about. And I was like, I really like it, but is it, how's that going to sell? And he's like, it sells out. It's like, it sells out straight away. So actually, it is quite commercial, and I think that's quite interesting, that this isn't all kind of smoke and mirrors, that London Collections Men is actually a business thing that's come from from nothing.
Because I've been in London 4 years, and then they just started the London Collection, I guess, last year. But that was the thing that people would speak like, oh, well, they don't do a men's collection because the stuff's kind of wild or whatever. Like, it's not really sellable. It's all like in theory in the center third. So I guess that's nice that that's changed.
Well, Astrid, I think, is commercial, and
yeah.
The last collection definitely was very, very commercial. And I remember, this is sort of a sidestep, but about a year ago or 2 years ago, I was in a trip in Tokyo, and I went into, is it La Forêt? Is that the name of it? Anyway, I walked in, and the most recognizable thing in that department store, as soon as you walk in, was Astrid. And I didn't even know that she was stocked there. Right. And this stuff was standing out on its own. And in Tokyo, there's a lot of identity and a lot of stuff, and her stuff looked really good.
The brand is commercial.
Wow.
Are we allowed to have a little? So when you say like Astrid is commercial, what do you mean by that?
What I don't mean is wah wah wah. That means sold out, boring. What I mean is like
powerful.
I just want to make sure I'm on the same.
Absolutely. What I mean is like you could see it in a shop like Machine A. You want to pick it up and you wear it out there. I don't mean like top man.
Okay. I was wondering.
You're gonna throw something at me, weren't you?
No. I'm relaxed.
You've got Astrid on. What that's always the highest compliment when somebody's wearing the label. So why do you love it so much that you're wearing it?
Actually, it gets worn quite a lot in my office. There's a few people who've this one actually, a friend of mine, I think he got it on private order, and they gave him 2 t-shirts by accident, and he gave this one to me when he was like really, really high and loved up. So I think he was just a bit confused.
So you're only wearing
like, Dean, I'm gonna give you my Astrid t-shirt, and I took it and like never gave it back, even after he sobered up. So like, thanks Dan for that. And but this, I did buy this myself from like private orders. I think it might be maybe the nicest thing I've ever owned. And yeah, it's good.
Very
seductive.
We need to
people like to touch it, It's very like sexual piece of clothing.
Wow.
But it has got that logo, and yeah, I do like the kind of crazy basketball, future basketball tribe logo stuff.
And you know what that makes me think of is like I remember like being in high school and like so my high school was Thomas Edison, Jamaica High School was in front of it. All my friends was in Jamaica, and it makes me think of my friend Kyle because he had a Versace top just like that, right? You know, velvet with the Medusa emblem. But the thing about it was when we buy stuff like that, you always had to get sizes above to fit the way you wanted it to fit, you know? So have it fit like a Champion hoodie, but it's not. So it's a 2XL or whatever, or 54, 56, whatever size is Italian. And where she's, you know, I feel like what's happening now with these designers is they're doing these items, the same kind of style, but then the fits, the cut for the way people want to wear them, you know?
Right.
Where, you know, that was a huge thing. I just remember that, like, all through, like in the 90s, like whether it was Moschino, all that stuff we were wearing. You know, we buy Moschino jeans and we buy a size 38.
Yep.
17 years old, but not even just because you want them baggy, just so like it's not super tight. Even though that's how a lot of kids are wearing them now, you know. Where now the designers are kind of like taking that look from the 90s, but then with the fits, you know.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. That's exactly what made me think of high school. My friend Kyle. They had the matching hat too.
Is this a shout out? We're shouting it.
Huh?
So we're doing shout outs.
Yeah.
It's a
Go
bit
on.
kind of Hugh Hefnery or like Elizabeth I or that sort of thing. Like her clothes can have that kind of regal, seductive.
There is
lots
a
of
bit of a
velvets and
regalness
furs
to
and
him, isn't there? It is a
big.
bit of a... Well, I often think, because I think the, was it 3000, the film with Daryoush in, I think that has that. There's a kingly element, and that weird camp power king. Because it's always traditional until 100 years ago that powerful men were colourful and like, you know, looked royal. You know, it's very new, this kind of idea that power is hidden.
And now it's coming back in rap. I guess you have the sort of pretty boy swag rappers, so people like ASAP who like will call themselves pretty boys and will wear lots of Astrid and push that sort of thing. And
Yeah, I think there
even
might
people
have been
like
an
Kendrick
image that went up on the wall of ASAP in some Astrid.
Okay, good.
Because we can't see the matrix that's
Yeah, I
happened.
do.
Oh,
There's
really?
lots of work going on back there.
We're basically talking inside a tumbler.
That's surreal.
We are.
That's my dream.
We
Yeah,
are.
that's all I want.
You're Morpheus. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So should we start talking about the images coming through?
Yeah, they're ready to go.
Cool. Okay, so you know, guys, let's have a look.
Let's have a look.
Let's have a little review. What are people? This is. I think this is a kind of comeback a little bit from the. Maybe Astrid tried to do commerce, or I mean, she does commerce very well, but I think this is a bit meant to be a bit stronger. But it's also kind of, it's definitely a move on, this collection. I had a little bit of a sneaky look on Twitter and Now Fashion, and it looks like it's definitely a little bit of a, it's not quite as sportswear centric, even though the shapes are the same. What do we think of this look?
Like long silky hair.
Is it silky? No,
I
what's
think
the top?
they're wigs, aren't they?
Thought it was Stephen Meisel. Let's see. What's
Makes
that
you think of
material?
FUBU,
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
right?
I'm pretty sure I had a top like that.
I got some. My mum.
I did.
My
I
mum
saw people
managed
with
to
it.
buy me some FUBU pajamas.
Who?
FUBU
For
pajamas.
Christmas.
Yeah, a long time ago.
A long time ago.
Yeah, I was very proud of them though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it onesie?
No, this was pre-onesie.
Alright.
Onesie has taken over the world. When I was shopping in the provinces at Christmas, onesies were like literally, that is,
Everywhere.
yeah.
Yeah, my friends were telling me they went on like Christmas Day walks and you'd see families of like 3-4 generations all in like matching animal onesies just wandering the kind of Norfolk coastline. Or,
Wow.
Does this mean
that's the thing now.
Does this mean I'm not allowed to wear boiler suit anymore?
Well, that's different, isn't it? You get away with it, I think, as long as it's
No.
not animal print.
I'm still
So-
wearing my bowler suit.
What do we think, Chris?
Oh, well, I don't know. I can't really see a lot. To be really honest. I like the Bobby Brown trousers.
Maybe they can move them up. I don't know. Maybe.
Guys, we
Is
might
it silk?
need to, we
It's
might
silk,
need
isn't
to move the screens a bit forward.
Yeah. This is interesting. Didn't expect to see that shit.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
almost a bit like JW, isn't it?
Yeah.
Asymmetric,
little
off the
bit.
shoulder man dress.
That's the last thing I would have expected to see.
Um,
Long shorts?
and yeah, what is that
Thanks.
fabric? That fabric's amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting the big guys as well because, you know, fashion's been dominated now for 15, 20 years and there's often people talk, oh, hey, somebody's not using wafy guys, but I mean, you know, I can't fit in clothes and it's not my belly. You know, I have a big belly and it's not my belly that can't, it's not my belly that can't fit in, it's my arms. And they're not that big.
You got fat arms?
Yeah, I got really fat arms.
Finger wings?
I got really fat arms. But it's my arms, you know, so Raf's shirts,
Yeah.
I can get them on, but the arms can't fit. So it's quite interesting. And actually, Charlie Porter, again, whose blog is brilliant, really, he was talking about how Liam Hodges and Craig Green both designed for a sort of bigger, realer guy, I guess.
A
'Cause
normal
once-
guy.
Well, once you're over 25, you do broaden out.
You chunk up?
Yeah.
I can't wear those skinny jeans.
Yeah.
I need to wear those baggy shorts to walk around the house.
So it's interesting, I think, that Astrid is designing for a bigger guy.
Yeah. This looks a lot more luxurious, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's different.
It's like a slight step up from sportswear, like much more luxury with the fabric
Yeah.
she's used.
Well, I think what's interesting as well with Denmark seems to have a strange relationship to streetwear. I don't know if it's the prosperity and the, you know, because Woodward came from there and they were one of the first really, and Norse projects, and you know, also Henrik Vibskov has always kind of had a relationship with sportswear, even though he's very arty. And there's a couple of really great shops in Copenhagen for sportswear. So I think it's quite interesting, and it might be something to do with the kind of party scene, or I don't know, maybe it's something to do. It's a very flat class
They've got their own
structure.
kind of cult following, and once they've kind of latched onto that, you just kind of ride, and that's probably why Astrid knows just to kind of stick with her brand, because she's already got that. You know, like with Nazir as well, like obviously they've got slight different clients, but like, you know exactly as soon as it drops, everyone's like, oh, let's talk about it, even though they might not be the ones to be able to wear it or buy it, but it's the cool thing, it's what everyone wants and talks about. Yeah.
I mean, Nazir's show last
Yeah.
season was so exciting.
Oh yeah,
I mean, everybody was like, Instagram nearly melted.
I was so upset I wasn't in it. I saw all my friends in it and I was like,
Yeah.
why wasn't I picked?
I remember
Just let that one out.
No, it was a good show.
I can sort of see the reference of that Only God Forgives. She says her inspiration for this, right?
Yeah, she
I can
was
sort of
talking about that.
Yeah, it seems like, I know it's autumn winter anyway, but it seems more like a darker evening, sexy, but like the...
So what's the film about? Because she said to Style.com that the collection was based on Only God Forgives, and maybe it would be just good for people to know what the film's about.
It's hyper-violent. I think it's like Ryan Gosling is in Bangkok, maybe, running a Thai boxing club, and his brother murders an underage Thai prostitute and then gets murdered, and then it's just like super violent. Quite beautifully shot. There's quite a lot of that. What is that colour? Kind of ochre or amber or kind of sandy thing she's using. You see a lot of that just in the interiors.
I've been thinking about like darkness on a couple of levels. One, the kind of annoying, you know, I sent out this birthday party invite and I realised it was quite fascist in a way, because it's full of violence, you know, all these like male images, violent, you know. And, you know, the nice things in the world are smiling and happy children and, you know, happy people. But the things that boys like are all these horrible, you know, I love war and like, you know, guns and like riots and, you know, it was all the pictures from the Ukraine, from the people writing. And I just, you know, so that's interesting that she's tapping into. It's a bit like music, you know.
It's because
like,
it's cool to be bad. Like nobody wants to be the do-gooder. Everyone wants to do the, you know, like you look at. I keep referring it back to musicians, but like Rihanna or like the kind of, how do I say this? Less clean cut you are, the cooler you are, and that's what everyone wants to be. Do you not see it?
yeah.
Right, yeah, for sure. I mean, the musicians aren't well behaved
No.
at all.
But even we want to be like that.
No, it's true. Of course.
Well, it's like music. I mean, a lot of the time with music, a lot of your favourite tunes, you know, are sketchy at best. You know,
People like to live vicariously through things that they're not.
people.
Like to live vicariously through things, no? Like romanticize things that are not part of their normal, maybe.
It's cathartic, isn't it? Maybe like the anger. Like I listen to angry shit and push
Yeah.
through the tube and imagine I'm
Anger
Kanye
and
gonna
shit.
kick somebody in the back of the head if they don't move. That's what it's about. So,
I mean, it doesn't
just
look.
me?
It doesn't look particularly.
Everyone just got quiet.
just cut that out so I don't get arrested
It
later.
doesn't look.
It's live.
You're here.
It's live.
Just me. Just me.
It doesn't look particularly bloodthirsty, though, does it? But I like. But the thing is, I like that hard. You know, that hard sort of. It's like the devil has all the best tunes. I like that hard glamour, but it sort of unsettles me. But also, I mean, the other thing about violence, which I think a lot of people don't get, is that a lot of men, you know, maybe not in London, but before you come to London or a big city like New York, you live under the constant threat of violence. So it informs your fashion taste, because your wardrobe is often about projecting a certain...
That's so true. I just come back from a very long trip in Belfast and I'm wearing jeans and a sweater. I'm not kidding. You go back to Ireland, you cannot wear anything that draws attention to. Well, where I'm from, you just can't.
But you still do though.
Oh, I don't in Belfast, never do.
Oh, no.
I have a wardrobe there. It's
What
just
will happen
That's-
if you wear
you
something?
get the shit kicked out of you.
Really?
Absolutely. Don't draw attention to yourself. Just do your business and get home. London is different. It's the first time I felt like I could delve into fashion whatever I wanted to do. Just
Glasgow
it made
used to
sense
be
to me when
like
he said that. I was like, oh, that's why.
Yeah, you feel it.
Oh.
It's true, because that is true. Violence is a threat.
So, you know, is this to some extent... One time, my ex's mum said to me, because I've always liked wearing tracksuits and stuff, and she sort of said to me, well, you're dressing like your oppressor, you know, as a gay guy. I guess because I was doing the whole... kind of... I hate the word chav, but I might have been doing gay chav.
That's kind of hot, though.
And,
Sorry.
you know, but she was like, you're dressing like your oppressor. So, you know, to a certain extent, a lot of, you know, is that happening with Astrid Andersen? Is there a kind of...
Well, yeah, I think that's great because, you know, maybe one of the things she's doing, whether she's doing it purposely or not, is bring a type of regalness, because you guys are saying her clothing's quite regal, to these things that have these horrible stereotypes. Like chav, like there's something wrong wearing sweatpants or any type of sportswear that denotes your lower class or something like that. So through the clothing, she's she is bringing a regalness to it. And a lot of designers are doing that, you know. So I think that's a really good thing. And again, that kind of taps into social stuff, and it goes beyond fashion.
What do we think is going on with the long hair? Because I think that's really interesting.
Weaves.
You know.
It's a late
That's weaves.
But it's
Lace
a,
fronts.
it's a statement, right? That it's not like Soki. Like maybe it's a statement that the
Going against what people are going to expect her to do.
Yeah.
You know, like this super masculine, oiled up,
Yeah.
you know, really chiseled man. So this time, it's
Everyone
so
with
feminine.
everyone with like a Caesar or kind of like type of cut like
yeah,
that.
like we're just going to go for it. And I don't know, I get a kind of Japanese element through it as well with the fabrics. Like from here I can see it looks kind of like silks and obviously regal fabrics as well, so I kind of get a little bit, maybe that's just me.
well, it's always super luxe, isn't it?
Yeah.
She does. So you wrote a piece, "The Internet is the Future of the Street." How's this relate to? How does Astrid Andersen relate to the internet being the future of the street?
Oh, that one's nice.
Or the internet being the new street?
I don't know. Can I talk about something else?
But
Apart from
that
the
was a
fact that we're
seminal
like
piece. That was
in
like
a-
Peter York describing the Sloane Railway.
I don't know really, but I think this is it's very opulent, so it's quite like, I guess Versace would be the obvious thing, like Versace, and also if you've seen that Migos, I think the big rap track of last year, the Migos Versace video, it's just like the most ridiculously over-the-top, lavish hip-hop video I've seen in ages. And Only God Forgives, like it's not, it's like it's super violent, like it's quite a kind of art housey film, and it's all filmed in these super ornate Bangkok interiors, and it's all very beautiful, so it kind of makes sense that this, it's not really thug clothing, it's like very silky, and there's patterns, and I think Nicholas Winding Refn dedicated that film End Drive to Alejandro Jodorowsky, and there is like a bit of that kind of magical mysticism to some of like his films, but also her clothes.
Because Ambush did a collection based on his stuff, didn't they, a couple of seasons ago?
Yeah, they talk about him. Yeah, they talk about him as well, don't they? So I get a bit of a Game of Thrones vibe from it as well, maybe, with all the like that kind of long shoulder length hair and the furs, and earlier you had those kind of really harem pants and silky sand-coloured travelling clothing.
That's really interesting that I'll ask the panel in general, I'd love to know what you all think of that. There was definitely, when you're in America or anyway, full stop, it's quite odd that people relate to sort of fantasy and Hollywood much more as if it's real. And television has become massively about these fantasy programs, and that's really interesting that you said Game of Thrones, because I think that people forget that fashion does relate to fantasy a lot. That it's not just kind of somebody walking around Paris, or Kate Moss pretending to be Mick Jagger's girlfriend. It's also about fantasy, and it's about computer, and it's about video games, and it's all those kind of things. And I think it's interesting that do you think that the whole kind of interest in fantasy has got a relationship to what's going on in fashion at the moment?
Hopefully. I think magic should be a big trend for 2014. I've actually got some like spells in my room that my friend's given me, like weird kind of love powders and curse powders and those sorts of things. So.
But you know what I mean? Because all these programs are so big now, these kind of fantasy series.
Well, who wants reality, really? We got enough of it, don't we? I don't really give it. I want bullshit and unreality and something else to think about, because real life is really sometimes not so inspiring. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to think about bills and tax and your own problems. You want to think about something bigger and a bit of luxury and something to aspire to. It's aspirations, isn't it, sometimes? Like, even the last look reminds me of that 2001 Prada shell suit look.
Yeah, the blue.
And that was really luxurious, and it's so interesting to see that now coming from Astrid, because that was such a luxe moment in Prada, and it was cool, and there it is.
Because there's a definite like comic book sort of almost superhero element.
That's what I was just thinking when you posed that question and then bring it back to like let's say like hip hop, right? So a big thing with rappers is like, it's fantasy, right?
It's
alias, it's fantasy. So it's like you're putting on this stuff, and it's like you get on stage, and you're not you anymore. You're not the guy that's on the production credits, or your real name, your Cameron, or your Ghostface. And then maybe when you're home chilling with your kids, you're not wearing that. But when you're out and about doing what you have to do, you have on the pink fur coat or whatever. Like, actually, the first time I was familiarized with her stuff, I was doing this thing with Nike for the Flyknit Festival. And me and her on the same workshop. And she was the main part of it. And then, like, I saw the piece laying out, and it was like a basketball jersey. And, like, the bottom half was, like, pink fur. And the first thing I said, I was totally ignorant to her. And I said to my friend, Shaman Dean, who's running the show, and I was like, Shaman, this is Cameron will wear this, and that's I feel like that's a big part of it. It's just, it is fantasy, it is super, putting on something, becoming someone else, that's fashion, escapism. That's not,
Well, look at like
you start off how you are in life, and then you develop all these things, and you get tuned into this construct or that, and then you appropriate it for yourself.
That's I mean, Suki, you look a bit like you might sort of live via that mantra.
Not in reality. In the fantasy Yeah, so I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, I don't know how. I think people are just getting a lot more, it's okay to be a lot more expressive and to say what you feel, and especially living in London, like each season, you know, you watch, or even like how graduate designers are now like praised much more than ever before, that people are just pushing the boundaries every time. And now there's like, obviously there's different places in London you can dress a certain way, but I know the kind of people that I dress around to dress like this is normal. Everyone kind of does it. It's just expression.
Because I love this. What you took, you know, very much about the alias, and I think that this really relates to that kind of hip hop idea of becoming somebody else, or that comic book idea. But it's also, I've just finished reading a biography of David Bowie, and you know, and he was voted the best dressed Briton ever, and he kind of pioneered that whole kind of becoming somebody else through your clothes. And I think
it's more of an attitude now, isn't it, than just like what you're wearing. It's kind of like when you think of, obviously, Astrid, obviously it's luxury, so the general person won't be able to buy this, you know, like if we didn't work in this industry, we wouldn't have access to this, you wouldn't know where to buy it. But it's kind of like, I really think when I'm relating it back to music, that they're not made for it, but it's like you can still be yourself, but it's just kind of that, when we're talking about branding, it's, you know exactly who this is by, you know this is Astrid, you know this is Katie, you know this is Nazir, it's, you know there's still a price tag around it. Maybe that's why, because musicians to a degree are quite, I hate to say the word arrogant, you know what I mean, it's like a sign of power, a sign of how much money I've got, and you can tell straight away.
Well, maybe as well, it's the Astrid thing is kind of like a symbol of how we all want to, you know, you two as a music stylist to an extent, you know, we all kind of think of ourselves as stars these days.
But I think the funny thing is, you like music stars, but now I feel like, and I haven't read your thing, Internet's New Street, but now because of the internet, I feel like it's reversed where, you know, kids look up to the artists. Well, I feel like a lot of these artists are watching the kids, and pilfering what kids are doing, and during the videos and stuff like that. But before it was like, because nothing's a secret anymore, you know? Well, let's say like now, like how long has she been doing this? Not too long, but loads of people know about it. Where for her clothing and what she does to travel and become known worldwide 10 years ago, well, it took so much longer, no matter how good it is. You know, same thing with music, you know, like, you know, certain artists, if they're gonna blow up, they blow up fast, and that's it. Because people could just Tumblrs and blogs and Instagram, they stand in third. So there's no secrets, and that's, you know, that's why you have, you know, certain people are kind of bitter about the times now, because everyone has access. Where like, really, you could, let's say just you're going to New York, you can Google this or that, and then I'm gonna hang out here, hang out here, hang out here, hang out there. Where you actually had to know the people. You actually had to really be a part of it, you know, to even get inundated into it, where that doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. So, I don't know.
Don't you think that it makes it kind of disposable in the end, though? Because yes, all these designers, young designers, do get a lot more renowned very quickly, but it won't have the longevity. It's same with the clubs. Like now, I remember going to New York about 6 years ago, and there was those little secret places that were really cool, and now it just all gets washed out.
I don't think it makes it more disposable, but I do think it just puts it on world view. So I feel like there are still those designers who were following trends, doing this, you know, they weren't really about it, but you wouldn't even notice them.
Well, I think
well, now because of the internet, you see everyone, but people, you know, and she's going to be one of them. People they're going to actually stick around and have longevity, whereas there might be some other ones that won't, because they're just trying to ride a wave.
Well, I think
maybe not. I don't know.
I think Astrid was saying, you know, she was saying last night about the logo thing and how she's gonna stick with the logo, and it's interesting because that is quite instant. You know exactly what it is, and it can make things quite disposable. But I think it's interesting that she's sticking with it. And a lot of the old school fashion press, they can't really see beyond the logo, and I think it's.
Maybe she's just kind of happy that she's found the niche and she's not trying to kind of break anything else. She's like happy with the kind of clientele that she's got and the people that she kind of relates to, and that's cool. That's okay with that. And I think that's maybe why. I mean, if she'd done that, the logos at the start, and it hadn't worked, it probably just wouldn't have ever worked. But the fact that it has, obviously now it's just that's her.
I think logo is quite big as well. Maybe in New York with like that whole Hood by Air being trill, that whole movement, and then you have that guy Will Fry coming up quite big, I think, whose whole thing is just photographs of all this Chanel and Gucci and all that stuff really layered. Cool. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's just a more American thing and she's kind of tapping into it over here.
Yeah, but and that stuff, the logo stuff's always been big. Like if you, you know, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dapper Dan in Harlem. Yeah. You know, basically similar kind of things where he's appropriating stuff, you know, huge, you know, sweaters with like leather Gucci symbols, so you know? Yeah. And it's always been apparent. And again, you know, like, I just feel like a big part of it is, you know, just on a social aspect, you have urban culture, right? So a lot of urban kids, no matter their race, come from broken homes. So if you're from a broken home, what are you looking for? You want to be a part of a family. Really, you want to be a part of a team. That's why kids get into gangs. That's why kids get into sports. So I don't, you know, why would she leave the logo thing alone? Because obviously that's what she's tapped into culturally. Yeah. You know, it's like the Chicago Bulls. You're never not going to see a Bulls jersey, no matter how much they change it. It's always going to have that bull emblem, regardless of what's going on in the world. And you know, that's what she's showing. You know,
Shane from Hood by Air, I was interviewing him.
He's been doing it for a long time. Shane, I know Shane since like 2000. You know, and he's been on the Hood by Air thing has been going on. It's just, you know, he started before the whole internet thing really blew, and then people think he's on a new wave when he's not. He's actually one of the forefathers.
But he said exactly what you've just said about the tribe, that, you know, people who don't have a, you know, and that's about being young, isn't it? That you do break away from what you've come from. And he said exactly what you said, that, you know, that him and his friends didn't really have what they felt like, you know, how they didn't belong. Yeah. So, you know, and I think it's quite beautiful. And I think it is quite nice the way that internet, in a way, has enabled all these tribes to come together and exist, and people to find each other. So, shall we have closing comments on Astrid? On this collection, Soki.
Well, I loved it. Like, I wasn't expecting anything else than amazing. I think she's definitely stepped up, like, much more luxurious than last season. But I think I'd have to go away and have a look at it afterwards. But yeah, overall, I loved it.
Tremaine?
Yeah, man, I mean, honestly, she probably couldn't make a collection in a sense that, and I wouldn't, even a lot of the stuff I wouldn't wear, but just every time, what I've seen, it's the mood, and it's just real to me. So I think it's amazing, you know? And that's what I look for more than anything I'm looking at, whether it's music or fashion. It's just, what's the mood and what's the reverence. And
that's my favorite look.
Hers is quite deep, you know?
Why is that your favorite look?
I don't know, that is just my ideal man. The only woman saying, yeah, because it's so straight. Yeah, oh God, I'm gonna stop. Yeah. Because when I was looking through no, I'm okay. Just being honest, because obviously, no, I just think she hasn't taken it too far. It's still you know, as I said before, you take the t-shirt off, you put it with a pair of jeans or whatever you wear it with, and it's as a whole, it's just, she's just definitely a type of person, and that's obviously, I'm obviously that kind of person that would love that. And
why is he your perfect man though?
Well, I actually know this guy, so if he's going to read this, that's going to look quite creepy. But I meant the actual look. You know, I could see you wearing that. You know?
Well, no, because I'm
not trying to say anything. I'm just.
No, because I think it's interesting. Because I think there's
We went lower brain with it.
Yeah, I know.
You meant style.
Style. I said style, not this boy.
No, because I think there's often a disconnect between modern and sexy, and so I think it's great that you think it's a sexy look.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and you know that's what Astrid's pushing. Because I think it is quite hard, because for some reason old and traditional seems to look sexier quite often than modern, and you're having a kind of I got told off yesterday for thinking semiotically and not about what's sexual, because apparently my beard looks good, but I hate it because I don't want to be like a beard dude. So your beard's not like a crafty. It's not a real ale beard.
Yeah.
Notice how he's not even referring to me. He's like, so mine is.
Yeah, but yours is like almost designer stubble. But you know, there's that kind of like.
No. I'm really quite lazy, and I like to sleep until the last minute, and this would be too much time.
But you know, there's that kind of folk beard that's bad. Alt folk beard. So, Dean, what your closing comments in appreciation for Astrid Andersen?
That's kind of unexpected, actually. Like this nipple length, shiny black hair, and kind of off the shoulder cut figure hugging tops and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's a very weird show. It's a good start to LCM.
Yeah.
Chris?
I think it's a nice step into luxury, and in my opinion, a little bit more sleek. Maybe sleek towards my taste than last season, and I really quite like it.
It's definitely darker, right?
Yeah, it's dark and it's strong.
Cool. Thank you very much.